All right, class. So, as we've been talking about integrating plyometrics in your program, I want to start talking and diving a little bit more into how to program and design plyometrics. So, obviously, we know plyometrics are important, and here we're going to be talking about how to integrate them. I know you've seen this PowerPoint before, but I think it is a little more handy when I can throw a little voice behind it before we start the programming process. So, as you guys know, it's a specialized exercise per the athlete for explosive movements. Triple extension, as Dr. Michael Yeasis goes on to describe in his book, but triple extension is relative to getting the ankles, knees, and hips fully extended. Why is that so important? Well, it's not necessarily the finished product of the ankles, knees, and hips extending. It's getting to that point and applying the force. Again, triple extension here. Look at his ankles, knees, and hips as he elevates and gets his hips thrown forward so he can make contact with the tennis ball. Baseball player, another perfect example. He's in that beginning position, steps forward, drives. Now we're in that triple extension position. Then we look at hockey, another great example, and it also includes a little rotational power as well, so did the baseball and the tennis. So it's very important to understand the planes of movement when we're talking about integrating plyometrics. Block shot, another great example here. I don't like LeBron James, but it's a great example of getting some triple extension. And then golf. You can see that beautiful golf swing there. More importantly, looking at how she has that rotational power going from that starting position, kind of getting that eccentric pull there, amortization phase, and then concentric hitting that ball. All right, so history, a little bit of history. It's a dynamic thing made by Verkhoshansky in 1968, who's an Eastern Bloc, I believe from Russia, used to train tons of Olympians out there. Hugely important it is. It started off in the track and field industry. Don Chu in 1983 recognized this, and he started creating drills. Actually, one of his books is still a go-to book for many strength conditioning coaches with how that applies to speed. As we've talked about in class numerous times, the ability to sprint or accelerate at a fast rate is really correlated to how high somebody can jump. So what is the purpose? Increase muscular power by using natural elastic components. All right, and we look at the force velocity curve and looking at power development here. We know as power is the highest, so is velocity, right? So that's very important that at the peak base, when you're looking up there, as power increases, so does force, and as that power decreases, so does force as well. Heavy resistance training, velocity and power are both kind of in that plyometric zone, okay? So velocity is speed training, distance over time. Power is creating mass, also divided by time. But looking at distance versus moving something, okay, and that's what plyometrics is. Force is obviously creating the ability to utilize velocity and or power. We talked about this in class a lot, that starting position of the eccentric phase. That transition from the eccentric to concentric is called amortization. All right, you want to decrease the time in between eccentric and concentric movements. So the faster the amortization phase is, the more explosive or powerful you will be. Again, it's the way we maximize stored energy from the eccentric action to explosive concentric action. Think of it as a rubber band. The farther I could pull back, the slower I could pull back, the more pop that rubber band's going to have as I snap it forward. And usually the longer the distance, the quicker the snap. All right, so again, muscular power, kind of looking at that same thing. As we get stronger, we are allowing ourselves to create power over time a little bit better. So relative strength is also very important in increasing your plyometric or ability to be explosive. All right, so common mistakes. One, lack of understanding of scientific theories. Two, principles often overlooked are too expansive added intensity, use of plyometrics for conditioning. So lack of recovery reduces training benefits, and we'll talk about that. Emphasis on quantity versus quality, and then focus on force output instead of absorbing force. We would talk about that landing, which is so vitally important to deceleration training. All right, so Obviously, needs analysis, number one thing we always do. Mode, intensity, frequency, duration. You guys might recognize this more of the frequency, intensity, time, and type, the FIT model. So remember, every session has a cost on the next, good or bad. So if we have a really good training session and we kind of are recovering correctly, our next training session is going to be better. If we have a really good training session but we recover poorly, we're going to have a poor session the next day. So all of these really take precedent into having a proper program. Needs analysis, we'll rehash this a little bit. Analysis of the performance and fitness, needs of the sport and athlete. We'll look at a couple factors: physiological or biomechanical requirement of the sport, injury profile. So what are some injuries that are more likely to happen per sport? It's strengths and weaknesses of the athlete, where they strong at, where they weak at, and that goes into testing as well, and previous tests that they may have done. But we always want to say that we want to complement their strengths by increasing or getting their weaknesses stronger. Okay, it's very easy as a coach to train somebody's strength. It's fun. You can kind of challenge them with different things, but really focusing on their weakness, that's the hardest part about being a strength and conditioning coach. Modes, we've got a bunch of different stuff to talk about as far as plyometrics, from jumps, chest pass, hops. Plyometrics is not just lower body. Plyometrics is also upper body as well. So it's important to realize that sometimes when people are saying plyometrics, they are not always referring to just jumping. Okay, we got a couple things. We got double limb jump, single limb jump, in place, vertical, horizontal, lateral, rotational. Remember, as we mentioned in class, we can utilize all the planes of motion, both upper body and lower body, to create a plyometric effect. Some considerations: landing mechanics, number one thing, right? We talked about that. The start position needs to be just like the ending position. Age and maturation. So the older we are, more capable we are, but also more injuries, right? The younger we are, we're more pliable, more elastic, more flexible, which is a good and bad thing, right? So it's our job as strength coaches to understand age and maturation. Physical readiness, are they ready for this kind of load of plyometric training? And equipment, obviously landing surface is important. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Tools, what kind of tools we have to teach plyometrics, and then obviously the supervision and coaching. Landing mechanics. This is a beautiful landing here. Boom. Right on the ground. So landing mechanics are so very important, okay? We want to land exactly how we start. Great position here. We're in an athletic position. Knees bent, does not have to be at 90 degrees. We want a nice flat neutral spine, eyes facing forward, arms are in that up position. Here is myself. Let's see if I can get this video to play. All right, triple extension, up, pause. This is a non-counter movement. We'll talk about this in another presentation. But I'm starting and landing exactly the same. All right, it's very important to understand that I'm starting and landing the same. So here's my start, right? Good start position. Here's my land. Perfect, okay? Everybody's landing positions are going to be different. You also want to notice foot position. Is that the same as well on every jump? You can see, if you're getting nitty-gritty about this, you can see my right foot externally rotate as I land. See how I fix my feet? That's something as a coach that you need to understand, and you need to kind of look and coach, and that's part of that coaching science there. Here's a level 2 with a mini hop in between. So what am I doing there is I'm creating a little added force that's a little bit more plyometric, so that's why it's a different level and progression. We're going to talk about those progressions, like I said, in another PowerPoint slide. Here is a normal box jump. Good start position. He's going to jump. Jeff here is a very powerful athlete. I believe he deadlifted over 500, squats well over 600. Very strong athlete, former hockey player. But you see his jump, his start, and his jump, all the same. Okay? Very strong athlete. All right. Let's see what this is. Transverse, so we're looking at another plane of movement there. Start position, again, is just like that landing position, right? I should probably hold that top position for a second longer. Turn, hold, okay? So intensity and volume, points of contact, speed of movement, height of drill, weight resistance. Beginner, no experience, 80 to 100 contacts. It's everything. People don't realize speed per contact as well. So when you're doing sprints, it's a plyometric movement. Intermediate, 100 to 120, and advanced, 120 to 140. Program considerations, 4 to 10 weeks. Progressive, isolated, and resistance training program, individualized in team environment. You have to recognize fatigue and overuse. That's why the needs analysis is so important. What are they doing in practice? Are they doing a lot of jumping in practice? If you have a volleyball team, what kind of jump stuff are they doing in their practices? That's all very, very important to understanding how to program. Youth, okay, intensity, focus on eccentric loading, how low to high, volume, use performance thresholds, frequency, 2 sessions per week, and obviously make sure we have a rest of 24 to 48. Rep velocity, use performance thresholds to maximize motivation. Recovery 60 to 180 seconds. Okay, this is a great little picture here, looking at kind of how to progress things. Unrestricted play, all the way from the bottom up to high structured sport specific. Okay, and it also goes, if you look at the left side here, fundamentals to learning to train, to training to want, to learning to compete, and then training to win. So Lloyd does a great job of understanding stages, not only of loading and eccentric loading in this case, but also relaying that to possibly age ranges that might help you program and design. The book on the left, phenomenal book on a coach's guide to jump training. On the right, you do have Don Chu, which I mentioned in 1983. It really was a driver in the plyometric realm as far as understanding how to relate that to sport after seeing what it's done for track and field, specifically in Verkhoshansky did in Russia. So he did a great job of taking that information and relaying it to current athletes. So that is how to integrate plyometrics. I figured this would be important for you guys to hear the why behind some of the slides. So obviously this week we'll be doing a lot of program design with it. All right, guys, talk to you soon.